This is a very serious evening, members. 5 months ago, the legislature sent to the governor a 2008-9 budget after months of acrimonious negotiations over taxes, cuts, spending, and reform. A few weeks before we actually passed the budget, I raised my microphone at the desk where Senator Hancock now sits and said, whether it's through the legislature or through the initiative process itself, we're not going through this anymore. A budget that was months and months late. Here we are, 5 months later, members, and it feels to me, despite the tension tonight and despite the stakes, that things have in fact changed. This legislature is on the verge of sending the governor a bipartisan budget that increases revenues, that cuts programs, has real budget reform, and has significant economic stimulus. We have come a long way, and I am proud to be presenting to you this evening this compromised budget, a solution with shared sacrifices. I think it is important, before we go through the bills and get mired in some of the detail, to recognize tonight, February 14th, 2009, what the state of California avoids and averts if we pass the budget tonight. California is on the edge of a financial cliff. And some would say that we're just about over the cliff, hanging on by a fingernail. The state, members, is running out of cash, and the situation is getting worse. We will be about $500 million in the red at the end of this month without corrective action. Without corrective action, we will be more than $10 billion in the red by July. The entire budget of the UC and CSU systems. Because of the cash shortage, we cannot pay our bills, and the state controller is now delaying payments. My constituents, your constituents, doesn't matter whether you have a D or an R by your name. The controller is delaying $2 billion in tax refund payments to individuals and to companies. The money obviously does not get recirculated in our economy and only makes the situation we find us in that much more precarious. We all care about the health clinics and the social programs that exist in all of our programs. The controller is delaying payments to those programs as well. It's not just whether the state of California can operate or not. Those of you who don't care or think that that's insignificant, what about the impact on our financial condition on the shutdown of private sector infrastructure projects? In December, the state froze financing for bond-funded infrastructure work, halting more than 5,000 projects, including 1,400 university and community college projects, 200 transportation projects, 400 flood control and water projects, and 600 housing projects. Altogether, more than $22 billion worth of infrastructure projects are at risk in the state if we don't get this done. If the budget does not pass today, next week, 276 additional projects will in fact be halted. When we started this process, we started it with a shared sense of goals: to close a $42 billion 18-month budget gap, to get cuts and revenues on the table and on the books as soon as possible, to minimize risky budget solutions, to take advantage of federal economic stimulus funds. Most important, members, We set out a month and a half ago to get the people's business done, and to pass this budget, yes, too late, but in another respect, 4.5 months before the 2009-10 budget deadline. So what do we present here today? We present a $41 billion solution that addresses both the current year and the budget year. We address the current year shortfall. We make $15.1 billion worth of expenditure reductions, $13.3 billion in actual cuts, $14.4 billion in temporary taxes, $11.4 billion in borrowing, but the borrowing is the governor's revenue anticipation warrant and the lottery. The voters passed the lottery in May, and we get the federal money. The first priority for that federal money is to buy out the revenue anticipation warrant, and there will be no borrowing. Public education takes a huge hit in this budget. We've agreed to some things I said I would never agree to. Digging into Prop 63, the mental health initiative that I spent my heart and soul championing, we're taking $450 million of that money and we're using it for deficit reduction and existing mental health services. The bills before you contain the most aggressive spending restraint that this state has ever seen. I know it may not be everything to everyone, but the fact of the matter is, if we had had what we hopefully will pass tonight on the books this year, we would have $12 to $15 billion worth of reserve funds, and our situation would be a lot better than the situation we find here today. Members, shared sacrifice. There, as one editorial pointed out, there's something in this budget for everyone to hate. There's no way that you can make good news out of trying to resolve a $41 billion problem. The only good news that we must give to the people of California is that we in fact solved the problem and solved it in the most balanced and responsible way that we can. That's what we set out to do tonight. Let's get the people's work done, and let's get it done tonight.